But going back
Yeah.
deeper, the history of the Kabbalah a little bit, because people associate Kabbalah with Judaism, but really it seems to be actually a more ancient tradition, going back perhaps to Babylon, no? What is the origin of
Oh,
Kabbalah?
yeah. I mean, well, the first thing is that it's not really, kind of recognized now, and nobody really takes any notice of it. But before the medieval era, there were Jewish laws called halakha, and it was forbidden for anyone to actually study the Kabbalah until, I think they had to be about 40 years old. If you got caught studying the Tree of Life before you were 40, you were in trouble. It was an oral tradition, and to be quite honest, Sean, I've got a big library, a huge library, and I've got encyclopedias that go back to the 1700s, Scottish encyclopedias from Edinburgh. And people ask me, why have you got, encyclopedias hundreds of years out of date? The reason is that you have elements of history in those encyclopedias that's really been written out of our modern history. Mm-hmm. And one of those is the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah was only really circulated in English widely in the 1800s. It is still a mystery. I mean, I find myself, there's a great part of Paris that I like going around. It's called the Cesium district of Paris. And that, again, is in Roman Polanski's movie, where you see them. They are actually in the Cesium district. Why? Because that district of Paris is full of occult bookstores. And even today, there is still this process of discovery going on. What we can clearly see in terms of the teachings in the Kabbalah, in the Zohar, is that there is no such thing as death. This is very important teaching. For example, you're driving along in your car and you see a little animal, he's been run over, it's roadkill, it's a shame. But in the true lessons of the Kabbalah, that animal is made of atoms which are described in the Kabbalistic texts. And atoms are miniature points of light. This is how they're described. They are particles which you cannot see with your eye, but they are the building blocks of everything in the universe. And that little dead creature, he is made of atoms, and those atoms are full of energy. And so the Kabbalistic texts and the tradition really breaks things down into particle theory. And what is really fascinating is that the oral tradition of the Kabbalah, teaching, from father to son, mother to daughter, this, I suppose, a version of nuclear physics, was very strong in Central Eastern Europe. Okay? Where do all of the nuclear physicists come from? Niels Bohr, Szilard, Albert Einstein, the Oppenheimer brothers, Edward Teller, who invented the hydrogen bomb. If you look at their family histories, they all come from Central Eastern Europe, which is the geographical area where the oral tradition of the Kabbalah was its strongest in Europe. And I've just written a new book that's coming out tomorrow called The Real Dr. Strangeloves. And, it shows that the Kabbalah is now being written into quantum theory. Quantum theory with quarks and neutrinos and all these exotic particles traveling at 2/3 of the speed of light that are being discovered in these particle accelerators. If you know about the Kabbalah, which though people like Albert Einstein and Edward Teller definitely knew about the Kabbalah, you can see that it's almost like they're making quantum physics fit the Kabbalah.
Right.
And that's what my book is about.